Hello everyone, and welcome to Camelot Chat. I'm your hostess, Shannon Watson, and this month we'll be talking about King Arthur's 4 queens and their fearsome fathers. More specifically, this episode is called Of Camilla and Vortigern, the Shieldmaid and the Overlord. Let's get started. Queen Guinevere was, without a doubt, the most well-known of King Arthur's queens, even with her multiple and confusing plethora of names. Guinevere's father also had, as they say, more names than God. Not counting Cador of Cornwall, who was her foster father, Welsh sources claim the queen had 3 fathers, variously called Gogravran, Leodegan, Caerwyd Gwent, Gwythrop Grydal, and Garland of Galore, each of these with its own strange variations. Additionally, Guinevere's father was variously viewed as an ogre, a warrior, and a giant, landing him neatly in the realm of myth. But does he really belong there? And was there really more than one man who claimed the honor of being father of the queen? Is it not likelier that, through the centuries, a few of the original names and titles of the queen's father got garbled, resulting in something quite different, a batch of colorful but bastardized names? Might we be able to find, with a sharp enough shovel, a real man to whom the title Queen's Father belonged? This month, I was all ready to dig into Guinevere's alleged triple fathers and their multiple names and meanings, and to flesh out the places they came from and all that. But then the fathers started piling up. You see, there are a lot more than just 3 fathers with 3 names. There are multiple fathers with multiple titles and multiple names and multiple honorifics and multiple locatives. Way more than 3. Way more than 4. And I needed 4. 1 for each week of December. 1 for each episode of Camelot Chat. Well, I don't have only 4 fathers, but I do have 4 women. 3 queens, 1 concubine. 4 weeks. So we're going to go with the women. They've got it where it counts. The first syllable, or word, of each of these women's names either sounds the same or has the same meaning. Each of them was either married to King Arthur, or slept with him and bore him a son, or both. Each of them holds a unique place in Arthurian legend, and possibly in history. And we'll get to the fathers, or at least who I think the fathers were. This week, we're digging into the least likely of the ladies, King Arthur's concubine, or mistress, or seductress, the Saxon battle maiden Camilla. So, we're starting with a fun one. At first glance, the name Camilla doesn't appear Saxon or Germanic or Utish, which is probably what she was, because it isn't. Camilla is a Latin name. The Arthurian scholar Norma Laurie Goodrich postulated that the name Camilla was a romanization of a better-known, more dramatic name. In the later Norse language, this name would have been Kvenhild, Kvenhilde. In 5th century Old English, it would have rendered something like Kvenhild, battle woman or battle queen. Camilla, or Quenhild, was known in legend as the Saxon battle maiden, who fought King Arthur at the head of what were probably Utish troops in Arthur's 12th and arguably most famous fight, the Battle of Mount Badon. Kvenhild would have been Utish on her mother's side. Kvenhild's mother was an actual queen, seductress, and later wife and queen of the infamous King Vortigern. She had been instructed by her brother or father, sources differ, Hengist, of the famous duo Hengist and Horsa, to seduce the king, so his Germanic sometime allies, later enemies, might better control him. The ploy worked. The Utes were one of many tribes comprising the horde of Germanic invaders that were then crossing the sea into northern Europe, overrunning places like France and Spain as well as Britain. Alongside them came the Saxons and Angles, the Frisians and Danes. Known as Eotnas, the Utes also called themselves Vodningas, sons of Woden, their divine ancestor. Woden was the father god of the Germani, commonly known as the first berserker, and laden with a magic all his own. The word Ute may be related to their other name, Eotnas, which at times indicated giants. Even the Utish names wielded a mighty sword. When St. Germanus first visited Britain in 429 AD, he came to fight the Pelagian heresy, which had infected British Christians like a plague. He also came to censure King Vortigern, who was not only himself a Pelagian, but had also allegedly committed incest with his daughter, producing a son. That son became St. Faustus of Rheims. The daughter seems to be the earliest mention of the celebrated Shieldmaid Venhild, later styled Camilla. Germanus fought and won the famous Alleluia battle against King Vortigern and his barbarian Utish forces. As we all know, the victor is the one who makes the report that turns into history, or in this case, legend. So these slanders against Vortigern may simply have been anti-Vortigern propaganda. We see this later when, in the medieval Arthurian romances, other sides of the story than Arthur's are reported, painting the king in a less than glowing light. The practice of smear campaigning continues to this day in modern politics. It is a very, very old practice. Don't believe everything you read. What seems to be true here is that this particular battle queen of Arthur's had a kingly father named Vortigern. The name, Vortigern, comes from the Old Welsh Gwartigern, which is a title and not a name, meaning overlord. While Vortigern allegedly descended from an ancestor named Gloius, who founded and gave his name to the city of Gloucester in England, he is associated with other place names. Ganneroo Castle along the River Wye, Mount Snowdon in Wales, Ganneroo Village in Herefordshire, England, even Dumbarton Castle in Scotland. Vortigern is also associated with the land he gave away to his erstwhile brothers-in-law, Hengist and Horsa, land that was not his to give. So does the title Vortigern match any of the Guinevere's other fathers' names? It just might. Let's start with the Welsh. Here we find a triple father, three very different names, three very different men, at least on the surface. The first of these is Gwrdd Gwent. The earliest of the Welsh triads that mentions Gwrdd Gwent is the White Book of Rhydderch, maybe, circa 1350 AD. Another equally early mention calls him Caewrdd Ceint, C-E-I-N-T. Gwrdd's second name seems to be a locative. If this is a reference to Gwent, G-W-E-N-T, then it indicates Venta Salurum, a Roman colony in Britannia corresponding to modern Monmouthshire in southeast Wales. Gwent was an important realm in the 5th century during the Arthurian period. A second place, the River Ceint, C-A-I-N-T, in Anglesey in northwest Wales, has also been suggested as Gwrdd's territory. If, however, Ceint, C-E-I-N-T, was indicated, then the kingdom of Kent in the very south of Britain was probably intended. This version of the name corresponds to the earliest mentions of Caewrdd Ceint. Kent is also the very land that would soon be overrun by Utes under Vortigern's ally Hengist. Reminder, Hengist was Camilla's maternal uncle. So now we have triple place names for the first of three possible fathers. It should be mentioned that the very first and most prominent mention of Caewrdd Ceint is in the Welsh Triads, a collection of triple verses organized into threes. This verse is called Arthur's Three Great Queens. Having styled it that, the Triads needed to deliver on their promise and provide their listeners with three queens. Whether or not Three Great Queens was an accurate accounting of the original facts. Men and women in those days were commonly identified as the son of so-and-so, or the daughter of such-and-such. This naming convention logically offers a total of three queens with one father apiece. not 3 fathers for the same queen. So, we need to proceed here with a grain of salt, and no more than 1 grain, not 3. Back to Quenhild. She grew up to be a fierce warrior, what the Utes called a shield maiden. Amongst the Germani, many women fought as warriors. Quenhild appears to have been a Guaquin, or warrior queen, which title echoes her own personal name, Battle Queen. Having captured King Arthur at the Battle of Mountbatten, however, Quenhild employed a most unwarrior-like tactic, seduction. It was said that she accosted the captive Arthur in his tent and seduced him. It doesn't make clear exactly what she hoped to gain by this conquest, as Arthur was already her prisoner. Perhaps she intended to sway the enemy king to her people's cause, or hoped he might fall under her spell so she could control him in future. Maybe she was just feeling horny. Whatever the Shieldmaid's initial intent was, the encounter resulted in a son. This son of Arthur became known as Smurvi Mar. Mar means great. It is seen as an appendage to a great many 5th century names in a variety of Latin and Celtic languages. One wonders how many of them gave themselves this honorary style. The name Smurvi may have issued from any number of places. Some think it is related to the early Irish word smur, the fat. Others that it came of the Celtic root smur, joy or affection. Murvy means spiritless or delicate in Celtic, while mur indicates mad in early Irish. Both are tempting choices, considering Smurvy's later career. IE in later English forms a diminutive, derogatory, or affectionate suffix. It must be a later appendage to an earlier name. I think, however, that the name Smurvy might have been as simple as smar, a Celtic root indicating a lad or growing youth. Taken together, it would have later rendered something like smarry, little lad. Generic and simple, like Smurvy. Because whatever his name really meant, Smurvi Mar, son of Arthur, was known as a wastrel, preferring wandering the forests and hunting to fighting and governing, at least in the romances. It has been suggested that Smurvi may have originated from the Brythonic name Cerdic, and that Cerdic may have been the Germanic, or at least part Germanic, Cerdic, who the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle recorded as crossing the English Channel into Gaul, from Gaul into Britain, with his son Cynric, late in the 5th century in 495 AD. I think the date is likelier around 470, but that's a conversation for a different day. So, maybe Smurvi wasn't such a wastrel after all. Maybe he wandered further afield than just the Caledonian woods of Great Britain. Perhaps he crossed the Channel to Gaul, returning with an army and a grown son, to reconquer his mother's adopted land and the homeland of his Briton father. Maybe he earned the honorific great. As for Smurvi's mother Quenhild, or the Saxon battle maiden Camilla, she met a violent end, but I'm not going to tell you what that is here. For the full story of Quenhild, the fiery Saxon shield maiden, or at least the precursor to it, you can pick up a copy of my book, The Wanderer and the Wolves, on Amazon.com. Quenhild's story really starts with its prequel, The Shieldmaid and the Cross, which is currently in copy editing. I'm hoping to have it out sometime in 2027. In next week's episode, we will examine in more detail the fathers of the multiple queens of Arthur, specifically that of the most famous of them all, Queen Guinevere. Her father was rumored to be an ogre, a giant, and an otherworldly wraith straight out of song and rhyme. But does a mortal man lurk behind these shadowy vapors? Find out next week. If you can't wait for more Arthurian lore till the next episode, you will find my historical fiction novel, The Wanderer and the Wolves, told from Queen Guinevere's perspective, on Amazon.com. The link is included below. And be sure to check out my author page at shanaveerstudios.com. Until next week, people who read live in many worlds. Books are the surest portals to those worlds. So keep living, keep reading, and keep dreaming until we meet again.